Yesterday, while I was looking for something to talk about on the channel, I came across this article that mentioned an employee who asked his boss for money for a raise at work, and the boss responded to this by telling him to quit. And he didn't want to fire him, he wanted him to quit. Because if you fire someone, then you have to pay them unemployment. But if you can guilt them into quitting, then you don't have to pay them anything and they're gone and you can just find someone cheaper and continue working because everyone is disposable. So it reminded me a lot of the many situations that I've seen in my life where employees try to do the right thing. They put in 2 weeks because they're tired of working at that company, and instead of giving them that option, your boss fires you for being ungrateful. And that is way too common in our current job economy. So let's get into our introduction here. You spend years proving your worth, showing up on time, taking on extra work, thinking that maybe, just maybe, your effort will be recognized. But the second you ask for what you actually deserve, your boss acts like you're a liability instead of an asset. That's when you realize you were never valued, just tolerated until you became too expensive. And if a company's willing to replace you that fast, maybe the real question is, why are you still giving them your time? I can tell you that from my personal experience. You give them your time because you need to eat. No one wants to work, and no one has ever wanted to work. If you're a poor person like myself, you have to work. You have no other way of supporting yourself. You have no investments, you own no capital. You're not a capitalist. Capitalism is for the 1%. The rest of us, well, I don't know what we need, but we need some other system because this isn't working for most of us. And the reality of that hits us in the face every single day. So let's get into my talking points for today. And that is one that I've come to on many, many occasions to the conclusion of is that job security is an illusion. It's actually one of my most top viewed video is talking about how little job security you have in this world. If your employer is willing to replace you immediately just for asking for fair pay, were you ever really secure in that job? Most of us want to believe in that toxic positivity that I talk about on this channel all the time. That somehow your efforts have meaning at work. Sometimes I'll convince myself of it at work as well. When I'm driving 25 miles to go to another site, while my boss just kind of nods his head and says, well, no one told him to do that. He's just doing it. Why? Because it's necessary. Sometimes when you do your job, it becomes necessary for you to do things. Like for me, I work completely autonomously. I don't need management. I don't need anyone in my area. I've been running it for many years, for more than 3.5 years now. And so that means that I know how to do everything I need to do. The only thing I can't do is actually make $1 million orders because that requires approval from people way at the top. That's the only thing I can't do. For everything else, um, I I don't need anyone else in my area. In fact, the last couple of days I've been doing training for the support people, and I ask myself this question: why am I doing the training that management should be doing? Because this is what you do. When people ask you for help within your own group, even though you're not actually part of their group, you kind of just, you know, you don't know what else to do, right? It's part of that. You think that your effort is going to be recognized, but the reality is that no one cares. Most of our jobs, no one cares about us and doing those jobs. They just care that it gets done. And unfortunately, that means that most of us are pretty much invisible, disposable, and that you can be immediately replaced. It would be very difficult to replace someone in my job, but I feel that every single day. I feel the lack of job security because I can sense it. That no one really understands what I do. That's a big part of my job is that no one really knows what I do because I'm by myself all the time. I'm in a big room, pretty much alone every day of the week and for years at a time. And when it comes to this particular area of the corporation, its failure rate is, what is it, 10 to 1? Out of all the people that I've worked with over the past few years, I'm the only person still left because this job is so mindless, repetitive, and low paying that no one will stay there. And the upper management know that. If there's one person that stayed there the entire time, it means the job is terrible. And it is a very, very difficult job to hire for because when you're trying to hire someone that's willing to do all of these things for this price, chances are you're not going to get very good workers. Talking point number two, why companies hate when you ask for more. This is the thing. It's like most people don't want to be rich. They just want enough to be able to live on without having to scrape by, without having to be in survival mode all the time. Employers count on workers being too afraid to ask for more money. Companies see employees not as investments, but as disposable resources. And this is something that I was thinking about last night. And I wanted to put together a video at like 3 o'clock in the morning talking about this. Is that essential workers was always a ploy. When they made disposable workers essential, we knew that it wasn't essential. Because for an essential worker to be an essential worker, he needs essential wages, essential job security, and essential benefits. No, that doesn't come with being a disposable resource. When you're a disposable resource, they don't even think about paying you fairly or think about how you would feel if you asked for even $1 raise. Because at my current Evil Corp, the if you qualify for an annual raise, it's like 30 cents. That's what my coworker got. And he got a perfect score on his review this year. And I got a you're lucky to have a job score on my review this year. And we make pretty much the same amount of money. He's been disgruntled out of his mind ever since he found out that he wasn't getting a pay raise on time. I could just tell. All the people I work with are very disgruntled at this point because they see this situation with this corporation not going anywhere. And this is something I had to tell Gen Z yesterday. You work at McDonald's, there are no raises, there are no promotions. This is just a job. And for every Gen Z I've ever had working for me, that is the epitome of a bad job where there is no future and there is no job security. Gen Zero can't stand that about the working world. They think that every job that they come into is going to be a place for opportunity. I assure you it's not. All you're getting is whatever the lowest amount of money that they can get away with paying people and hoping for them to stay on. And then complaining about things like worker turnover. How do you complain about worker turnover when you're giving people no reason to stay there? And that leads me directly into toxic positivity. We're like a family here. Money isn't everything. You're not being supportive. They're manipulating you into accepting less. This manipulation is constant. That a job isn't a right. It's a privilege to have regular employment. And that you should take pride in your work. And you should come to work every single day and work like the owner. All of these things are manipulation while they exploit the hell out of you. They don't mind it. Corporations, as with anything, they're exploiters. They're exploiters of people who can't defend themselves against a system that's rigged against them. The system will never change. As much as I want to advocate for change, And I'm going to do this in the worst possible way. They have cemented in the 5 day on site work week. I think the 5 day on site work week is as ridiculous as my advocating for the 1 day, 1 hour work week. Because as much as they think, oh, that's crazy, 1 day, 1 hour, how would we ever make money that way? I don't care. I don't personally profit from Evil Corp's annual record making profits. I don't care. And that's the thing that corporations really don't like about workers like me. It's like record profits. I'm not making record profits. What did you make last year as a pro working your minimum wage job? $30,000, while the cost of living is closer to 50,000 for bare minimum living. That doesn't encourage people. In fact, it makes your mindset go in the opposite direction, where there's a lot more workplace theater going on than actual work. But again, if that's what you're willing to pay your workers, and then you wonder why there's no loyalty towards the corporation, that's because there was never any loyalty the other way either.